I'm Andrew with Full Metal Fabworks. I'm going to show you how to install a set of our Vertex step sliders to protect the rockers on your Jeep JLU. I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff moved over to the bench and go through the steps of how to set everything up and run through the installation process. Alright, now that I got you in a little bit closer, I'm going to go through some pre-assembly steps to get you started on the rockers. This is your body mount, which will affix to the Jeep rocker with 13, 5/16, 18 stainless steel button head Allens. You will need to put the nutserts in the Jeep to do so, but first thing you're going to do is install your clip nuts, which are 3/8/16, and these will mount the body mount to the actual rocker step itself, and these are 3/8/16 stainless steel button head Allen. There'll be 7 of these per side. So first thing you want to do is take your clip nut with the extruded barrel side down and insert it facing down into your body mount. You want to make sure that clips in. When it gets down and clips in, it should have a little bit of play and a little bit of freedom to move. So do that with all 7. And once you get those installed, we're going to assemble this with the actual rocker itself. You can identify the front of the rocker with this L-shaped body mount here. That is going to be the front, so this will be a driver's side rocker. I'll get these finished up and then show you how to mount it to this. With your clip nuts attached, extruded barrel facing down to your body mount, you'll now attach this to your step. To do so, you're going to use 3/8/16 by 1 inch button head Allens. There'll be 7 per side, and they'll be the bigger of the 2 sizes of Allens that you'll get with the kit. The front will be this larger portion here, and this will be the rear next to your rear fender. So with this being the front, we'll need to spin this around, and it will go under this lip here and attach using your stainless steel button head Allens. And on these, you want to use some type of anti-seize since they are a stainless steel button head. We're using copper here. You can use aluminum, anti-seize, it really doesn't matter. But go ahead and anti-seize all 7 of those bolts and get this attached, and then we'll move on to the next step. With your body mounts attached to your rocker step sliders, I'll go ahead and go over these pinch seam gussets and how to decipher which one is for which side and front and rear. So to decide on which is front and rear, you'll see that one is longer than the other. The longer of the 2 brackets will go on the front. The front also has 1 missing nutsert, and the fronts will have 3, and the rear will have all 4. The reason there's 1 missing here in the front is because it corresponds with a bolt on your pinch seam from the factory, which you'll reuse. So the longer of the 2 is the front, the shorter is the back. To decide which is left and which is right, they only go one way. And if you look at these, this bend is at an angle from this bend here. So one side of this face is wider than the front side, which is narrower. Same with the rear. The rear has a narrower face here, which this is at an angle to this bend. You will be able to tell left from right. They'll only go on one way. The narrower side of either bin will always go towards the outside of the vehicle, or the rear for the rear and the front for the front. So the narrow side points towards the front of the vehicle, and the narrow side on the rear points towards the rear of the vehicle. So the wider of the two will always be pointing towards the center, towards each other, and that's how you tell them apart. I'll go ahead and move you over to the vehicle. We'll do some prep on that and get ready to mock these up and get our holes marked for our nut certs. We went ahead and got the rockers and the front and rear fenders taped off just to prevent any damage when you're installing the rocker protection step sliders. Alternatively, you can tape the back of the body mount itself if you want to. You just want to make sure if you tape the Jeep, you leave a quarter, 3/8, an even reveal all the way around, so when you install your body mounts, you can make sure that you have a reveal that's consistent with all of your doors. It'll look nice and neat. Next step will be to go ahead and remove your body mount bolts. With your body bolts out of the way, we're going to go ahead and lift this rocker up into position and use those 3 body bolts to hold it in place while we mark the rib nut holes. This is usually easier done with a friend or a helper. I'm working by myself today, so we might cut this out because it probably won't be pretty. But I'm going to go ahead and get this in place, and then I'll show you how to mark the holes, and we'll go from there. Once you have your rockers in position and you're happy with all your door gaps, everything's nice and tight, the body mount bolts are tight, this body mount panel is tight up against the body, and you're confident that nothing's going to move and everything's in the right position, you're ready to mark and drill for your nut certs. This part you want to make sure you get right the first time. You only get one shot, and you want to make sure you do it right. So you want to be as precise as possible when you're marking your holes. There's a few different ways to do that. You can do it with an automatic center punch like this. You can do it with a transfer punch and a hammer like this. You can mark them with a Sharpie, drill them with a pilot bit, and then come back and then finish them off with a 17/32 final drill bit. Our preferred method is probably the center punch. Best practice here is going to be pick 3 holes far apart, maybe this one, and then one at the back there. Mark those when you have it in place. Pull the rocker off, disassemble this body mount panel. Go ahead and do your 3 bolts, and then reinstall just this panel using those 3 bolts, and then you can drill these in place. If you're confident in your abilities and that this is not going anywhere, you can technically drill these in place right now. But if you have any movement whatsoever in this, you need to stop, reset, take this off, finish the ones that you've already got drilled, and then come back and reinstall it. Because if you have any movement and you try and drill it, your nut certs aren't going to line up, and it's just going to cause you more headache. So we're going to go ahead and get the 3 drilled, get this taken off, and we will show you a couple tips for your front 4 or 5 bolts. There's some extra layers of sheet metal behind this area that you don't really need to drill through. There is a 10mm bolt on the pinch seam, and then 2 on the inside of the fender here, inside the door. If you remove those, it'll allow this fender to pull out a little bit, and you can drill them and then put your nutserts in. Once they're crushed, there's plenty of room back there for them, so you can reassemble the fender before you put the final rocker on. So we're going to go ahead and get these drilled, and we'll be back. We went ahead and got all of our 17/32 holes drilled up until this point. There are a few holes around this area that you will be going through multiple pieces of sheet metal, but they are stacked together like laminated. Up here, it's just one piece of sheet metal, but there's another piece behind it fairly close. So if you're using something like a step bit, you can't get all the way to your 17/32 diameter without hitting that back portion. So to make that a little easier and pull this outer section of the fender away from that inner piece, you're going to go ahead and remove this bolt here on the pinch seam, which is a 10 millimeter. Go ahead and set that aside and leave it out. You're going to reuse that later with your pinch seam brackets, the support brackets. Go ahead and open the door. There's another 10 millimeter here, and up higher here, they'll be the only two 10 millimeters that are body color painted inside. Go ahead and remove those, and then that will allow this fender to come out, and you can drill your holes, install your nutserts, and then put all that back together. Once we get that done, we're going to go ahead and we like to take a little body colored spray paint, spray it right in the cap of the spray paint, and then get something like a little art paintbrush, and then we touch up all of our holes that we drilled. We're going to use RTV later when we install the nutserts, which will seal all that up, but just for good measure, you know, these Jeeps are pretty nice, so we want to keep them nice. So the areas that we drilled, go ahead and touch up the paint there. So we'll go ahead and get those steps done. We've got those other two bolts inside the fender, or inside the door here, pulled, and just to show you, you can see how much this fender moves in and out. That just gives you a little extra room on the backside to drill these and insert your nutserts without them hitting that secondary layer of sheet metal behind it. So we'll get those drilled out, and then we'll show you how to install the nutserts. While we're waiting on the paint to dry for the holes that we just painted on the rockers, we're going to go ahead and get this body mount, since we have it off anyways, to drill the holes or mark them earlier. We're going to go ahead and get it ready to final install. To do that, we like to pre-install our pinch seam gussets. With this front one, you'll notice there's one missing here. That's that 10 millimeter that you took off out of the fender earlier. So this bracket's going to go just like that. This rear bracket can go either way as long as the smaller part of this flange is pointing towards the rear. On this, you're going to use these 5/8/16 stainless steel button head Allens, and they're going to go from the front outside of the vehicle to the inside. On this side, you're going to, once you get it installed on the vehicle, these will go for, you'll be underneath the vehicle installing them from the inside out. So we'll show that in a little bit. So we're going to get these on here, and then go ahead and show you one other trick that we like to do that's kind of optional, but we'll go ahead and show it to you anyways. So we loosely installed the pinch seam gussets. We'll go in and tighten those up later when they're final installed. We've taken the body mount and reattached it to the step slider rocker protection. So one step we like to do, it's not 100% necessary, it's just kind of personal preference. We like to take and run a bead of RTV or silicone gasket around the edge, everywhere it's going to touch the body. And then we go ahead and encircle our logo here and then on the inside to just ensure that nothing's going to get down in there and help form a better seal between the vehicle. So go ahead and get that done so it can be setting up. While it's setting up, we'll go over and finish setting the rib nuts. and show you how to do that, and then this thing will be ready for final install. With the touch-up paint dry, we're going to go ahead and install our rivet nuts. We're going to do this front section first just so we can go ahead and hook this panel back up and get that thing ready for final install. For rivet nuts, we don't supply any tool to do them. This tool is pretty cheap. It's an Astro 1452. I think we paid $30 or $40 for it on Amazon, and this tool is going to come in handy if you're installing Jeep parts like this, or several other corners, or several other different parts. A lot of them require riv nuts. So most of the tools that are included in kits like this, we end up seeing just end up being more frustrating than anything. So get yourself a good, decent quality tool like this, and that'll speed up your process and save you some headaches. So to install this, we're going to go ahead and put it on the tool. It's a 5/16 18 mandrel, and then we're going to put some silicone, put a bead of silicone all the way around this. And you want to adjust this on here, that when you start to put pressure, before you get all the way closed, it starts applying some pressure. You want to make sure that your rivet nuts go in nice and square, like that. And we also have a little bit of anti-seize on this because you don't want that galling up in your rivet nut. So go ahead and wipe off your excess silicone, get a rag, get the rest of that off there. Repeat that same process down the line 13 times, and you'll be ready to install your rocker for the final time. Alright, we're going to final install this rocker for the driver's side. That means Loctite on your body mount bolts. We're going to use this spacer on the front mount, and then we have gone ahead and anti-seized all the stainless steel button heads. So we'll get this thing installed, and the last two things we'll have to do is tighten down the bolts for the pinch seam mount, which will show you how to do that, and then finally install your aluminum tread step on top, and we'll go through that as well. We'll get started on this. Finish out your install. We've got all of these 5/16 Allens just loosely installed. Your body mounts are loosely installed as well. The first thing you want to do is tighten up your pinch seam support gussets. The easiest way to do that, there'll be an access hole here at the rear, which yours may look a little bit different. These are the prototypes, so I think we're going to change the profile of that hole a little bit, but it will allow you to put an Allen wrench down in there and access that 5/16 upper pinch seam bolt. The other upper pinch seam bolt will be accessed straight through your high lift mount, and it'll be the same in the front. There'll be a similar access hole, and you can get through the high lift in the front as well. On the back side of the pinch seam mount, if you just lay under there and look straight in there, there will be corresponding holes with the bottom that will allow you to get in there, and then there will also be access from the back side. On the front, remember we removed the one 10mm bolt and for that, to pull out the fender for the nutsert. That particular bolt is going to go back in on the front pinch seam mount. So you get those tightened up first. After that, you want to go ahead and put your aluminum tread plate on, which will be held on with these 3/8/16 button heads, as well as some 1/4 button heads that will go in the smaller already threaded holes for you. Again, use anti-seize on all that stainless steel hardware. So you'll do pinch seam, install your aluminum top. Go ahead and tighten up your body mounts, the 5/8/16 bolts, and then lastly torque your body mount bolts to 80 foot-pounds, and that'll wrap everything up. We'll go ahead and show you some pictures of ours all put together. But other than that, you should be good to go. If you have any questions, give us a call, 909-505-7115. We appreciate your business, and let us know if we can help you anything else.